hey, welcome to my desk. Today I'm going to be drawing Avatar, The Last Airbender. I love Avatar. A lot of people do. It's a really classic, great series. Maybe one of the more or the most beloved animated series of all time. And I just thought it'd be cool to draw some of the main characters for you today. And I decided to draw one bender from each of the 4 nations. Air, fire, water, and earth. Not in that order. But I'm going to start with air, and I'm going to draw Aang, who is the last airbender. And honestly, I just love this show. It's a classic. It's got great world building. I love the bending. I always thought it was really cool as a kid. Just like really wanted to be a bender. I think probably wanted to be a water bender the most. But air is cool too, because you can kind of fly. And Aang is just a 12-year-old boy who is, the next Avatar. Who is like a figure similar to the Dalai Lama that appears once every generation and is the only person that can control all 4 of the elements and bend them to their will. And one appears every generation and alternating nations. So this generation it had to be an airbender. And Aang is discovered, and he's in training when the Fire Nation attacks and commits a genocide of the Air Nation in order to wipe out this generation's Avatar. And this is part of a plot to take over the known world and become kind of an empire. Fascist empire. So, as you can probably tell, this series has a very relevant subject matter. And for a kid show, it honestly tackles some issues that you don't really often see in series or, programming for children. Okay, so that's Aang. And I'm going to draw now Katara. Katara is from the Water Nation, and she's a water bender. And there are 2 water nations, or 2 water tribes, the north and the south, at either pole of the world that this series takes place. And honestly, I can't remember which one she's part of. I think she might be in the south, but I'm just guessing now because it's been a minute since I've watched the series. And her story arc, she starts off not really being very good at bending because after 100 years of the Avatar being missing, the Fire Nation has really taken over. And they kept her and, everyone else from bending as a way to maintain control of the world. So it's forbidden for her to bend, but she's learning anyways. And then as the story progresses, she becomes a very, very talented and skilled bender. And she even learns to bend people's blood, which is a pretty controversial thing if you think about it. And she does struggle with it morally and decides that she doesn't want to do it, but that's just goes to show you that she has incredible power, and she learns to control it and when to use it and when not to use it. She has a lot of a strong moral compass, because again, this series talks a lot about, you know, good and bad, but a lot of times it's a gray area, you know. And I do think that it handles that show or that theme in a very mature but also accessible way. And obviously it's a very, well, not obviously for some, but I guess it's very relevant to today in these times. And I think if you have children, it'd be a good idea to let them watch this series, because it's just honestly very entertaining, but also important, I think. But yeah, Katara and her brother find Aang frozen, and they free him from a block of ice, and they begin a journey to stop the Fire Nation. And I just think that they just do a great job. I don't know what I'm saying. But okay, so that's Katara. And now I want to draw a Fire Nation bender. I'm going to draw Uncle Iroh. And Uncle Iroh is the brother of the leader of the Fire Nation, who's kind of this like fascist leader who's trying to create, you know, an all-encompassing power. And he's taken the prince, Zuko, under his wing as they search for the Avatar in order to kill and maintain power. But the thing I like about Uncle Iroh is that he's actually a good character. He's not evil. And I think that's also like really cool that they were able to show that even on the enemy side, there are likable people, likable characters, people that see reason and are not evil. It makes the show that much more complex and, you know, closer to real life and how things are. And he is, you know, dutifully following orders, but he also encourages his nephew to think outside of the indoctrination that the Fire Nation has created. And he's very wise and often, you know, telling lessons, moral lessons, and like fables and, you know, metaphors. So I just wanted to draw him. Also, he can do some really cool stuff. And you know, with bending and stuff. I saw him breathing fire and that kind of thing, and it's really, really impressive. So the show itself was inspired heavily by, you know, Chinese and other East Asian cultures, but mainly Chinese culture. And martial arts is like a heavily used inspiration for the like actual choreography and like seems really well researched and really well, like it has a respect for those cultures. I think you might have to, I'm not an expert, but it seems very respectful and well researched. Okay, so that was Iroh. And now I'm going to draw an earthbender. And I'm going to draw Toph. And Toph is the earthbender. So during the show, Avatar, Aang is like traveling the world in order to learn the 4 elements because he never finished his training. So they go to the Earth Nation to meet or to find someone to teach him earthbending, and Toph ends up becoming his mentor and tutor for earthbending. And honestly, as a kid, earthbending seemed the least interesting to me, but as an adult, when I rewatched the show, I found it the most cool and impressive type of bending, and especially the way that Toph bends. And the cool thing about Toph is, while she's blind, and so she uses her senses and her, connection to the earth to feel her opponent or, whoever around her, feel her surroundings, and is able to navigate the world without really seeing anything just because of her earth-bending abilities. And again, the show did a really good job of, representing different identities as well in that sense, because, Toph is blind, but there's also another character who's a paraplegic, and, they're not represented in any way that seems like they're less than or weaker or anything. And I think that is a good representation, for maybe some kids watching that are similar, they're blind, or, well, they're not watching if they're blind, but, interacting with the material in a way. I think that's cool. And Toph has this kind of attitude, she's headstrong, and she doesn't really want to teach anyone at first. She's using her powers to, win battles and arenas and stuff, and make money. Another creepy element of the series, now that I'm thinking about it, is the city that they find Toph, which is, I think it's Ba Sing Se, which I think I read is loosely based on Beijing, the Great Wall. But the entire city is sort of brainwashed and has this pleasant attitude, and I feel like that is also a cool, interesting, if not very creepy representation of indoctrination and, basically cult. So it's a pretty heavy show. Okay, so that was Toph, and that's the last character that I'm going to draw today. So I hope you liked it. Well, I hope you liked this one. Let me know if you watched Avatar and who your favorite character was. And I will see you in the next one.